Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. We're finally here at the regular season. Preseason is finally over. The Utah Mammoth just submitted their 23-man roster, and here is my opinions on what the line and the roster breakdown will be. I'm pretty sure this will be it. I don't know what else he would do, but we'll walk through it. The players in red with stars are injured, so you don't count them as a 23-man roster. Congratulations to Agazino, 34-year-old American Hockey League veteran. He slides in and makes it in due to Kerfoot's injury. He beats out Daniel Boot. I think Boot just needs a little bit more baking time in the American Hockey League. I loved what he brought in the preseason, but those last two preseason games when, the competition was mainly NHLers, you were facing NHL competition, Boot sort of was unnoticeable, maybe had one good play in each of those games against LA and San Jose at the Delta Center, but Dmitry Simashev, in those two games against NHL competition, he was up to the task. He looked great. A little nitpicky things I have about Simashev. There was one San Jose goal where the player was coming into the Utah defensive zone pretty easily. He gains his zone with speed, uncontested. Simashev should have probably stepped up, and the San Jose player goes around Simashev. Simashev, instead of engaging physically, closing the gap with his body, he sort of allows the player to gain entry to the zone and try to use his reach to knock the puck off, but the player went around that reach and scores a goal. So some nitpicky things there, but I think Simashev looked great against NHL competition. I have him slotted in the third pairing with Schmidt. Maybe he progresses and fills in that second pair with Durzi, because I do agree, like Mata in the second pair position sort of looks out of place, but I'm not sure who else you put. You put Nate Schmidt as a second pair defenseman. It's like that spot should be Simashev's. He just has to earn it. So that's why I put him on the third pairing with Schmidt. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. I'm excited. I can't wait for actual hockey that matters with game number one. The first line is Keller, Hayden, and Schmaltz. Both Hayden and Schmaltz coming off career years last year. They need to build on it. And those two players, Hayden and Schmaltz, are entering the last year of their contract. So a very interesting year for both those players. They obviously know they want the bag. This is their last year. They got to show not only Utah, but the league-wide that they deserve a pay raise to be paired up with Keller. This is the money line that I've been calling for about 4 years now. We're entering the 5th year of the money line. I call it the money line because they're just automatic. All these three players, the chemistry, the skill, you don't have to worry about this line at all. They're going to do what they're going to do. Maybe they might nickname them the Arizona line, since all those three of those players have long roots from the Arizona Coyotes. Next, we go to the second line of Gunther, Cooley, and Peterka. Cooley's been practicing in a regular jersey, and Turney said he should be ready for game number one against the Avalanche on the road, so that's why I have him there as a number 2 center. Also today, there was reports that Cooley denied an 8-year by $9.6 million contract. I think that's another video, that topic. But we got a really young line of Gunther, Cooley, and Peterka. I believe they're like 21, 22, and 23 years old. Peterka and Gunther, they played a lot together in the preseason. Cooley was a bit injured, so he didn't get too many games. But Gunther looked unbelievable during the preseason. He was scoring almost every game. He said to the media he wants to diversify his goals, just like how you should diversify your portfolio with stocks, ETFs, bonds. Maybe you dabble in some cryptocurrencies as well. But Gunther, he wants to attack the net, go to the middle of the ice. He's got that shot, laid down. He knows what to do. He even got better at shooting, I felt, in the preseason. But now he's going to score more goals around the net. a lot of goals in the NHL, they get scored in front of the crease area, 2 to 5 feet in front of the crease. And we saw that in the Vegas preseason game where he just took the puck to the net and scored against Adin Hill. He did it against Anaheim as well, way early in the preseason. But the rebuild is over when this second line becomes your first line. And I didn't put that as an expectation, but if we start to see this second line just be dangerous, scoring at will, just not letting up. The fact that Cooley denied that contract, he's betting on himself hard. All three of these young players, they just want to score goals. They want to be consistent. They just love scoring goals. Peterka scored 28 and 27 goals in the past 2 seasons. In each of those seasons, he's a goal scorer as well with tremendous speed. So if you start to see that Cooley line start to become the first line, that's a great sign for just this team trying to make the playoffs and making the playoffs, and just the growth of these young players. It's not just the prospects in Boot, Simashev, and Ginla, who was sent down to juniors today at the announcement of the rosters. Like guys like Gunther and Cooley, they're getting better every year. They're 21, 22 years old. Even a guy like Keller, he could even reach a higher peak than he did last year. These guys aren't done growing and getting better. So even guys like Cooley, Gunther, and Peterka, they got other gears to unlock, and they should and could unlock that gear this upcoming season. Next, a third line of Krause, McBain, Tanev. What a bruiser line. I loved Krause's preseason and training camp. The games I watched, he was engaged. Krause is going to have a good game and a good season when he's finishing his checks. So many times last year, Krause would just fly by a player. But, in that LA game at the Delta Center, or was it the San Jose game, there was a moment where Krause chipped it in past the D, finished a check on the defenseman. The defenseman rimmed it around. Tanev, with his speed, finished a check. It was 2 checks in succession. The crowd loved it. When you see Krause laying the body, he's going to be a really effective player on the third line. McBain as well. He's no slouch. These guys need to be consistent in finishing checks and just being that intimidating third big line. Even though Tanev's not a big player, I think he's 6 foot flat or maybe 6'1". He's fast, speedy, and he finishes checks. We saw that incredible breakaway goal Tanev scored all by himself. All he did was just block a shot or just get in the face of a defenseman in the defensive zone, and he was off. He won that loose puck battle, and no player could catch Tanev. So I love the speed he brings to that bruiser type of line of Krause and McBain. Then the fourth line, it is a bit of a mishmash because Kerfoot is injured week to week. O'Brien is injured as well. I thought he was practicing, but he never really made it into a preseason game near the end. But you got Yamamoto, who makes the team, Stellan and Carconi. The quicker Kerfoot is healthy and Yamamoto goes to the American Hockey League, I think is the better. I really like a fourth line of Kerfoot, Stellan, and Carconi, because right now Yamamoto and Carconi, they're sort of the same player, this small-statured speedster, and Yamamoto had a pretty good preseason game against that San Jose Sharks. Carconi, we know what he brings. Stenlund is that defensive two-way stalwart. But that seems to be sort of a weird line I put together, which is why maybe someone might put Tanev in place of one of Carconi and Yamamoto and put them up on the third line. But for me, it's like Kerfoot needs to be there on the fourth line, and Yamamoto's just filling in his spot until he gets healthy. But that's great depth as a fourth line. That's sneaky. They could pot in some goals. Carconi was a 20-goal scorer 2 seasons ago in Arizona's last year. Last season with Utah, Carconi didn't have a good year, and he couldn't get the contract he wanted elsewhere. He had to sort of walk back the walk of shame back to Utah. So maybe he's got a fire under his butt as well to have a really good bounce back season, just like Krause. Then we go to defensemen. Sergachev, Marino, our most reliable, consistent, stable defenseman. Sergachev will pitch in on goals. He's probably good for about 10 to 15 goals. Marino, not looking too much for the offense with him. Just a great mature defenseman who doesn't take any risks and just slows things down and just always makes that right play. For me, I love Marino's defensive game. I already talked about Mata sort of being the odd man out here, not really being a top 4 D-man. But, if Simashev isn't ready for those second pair minutes alongside Durzi, I think a guy like Mata fits in well with Durzi. Then you have Schmidt and Simashev. Schmidt, that veteran player, won a Stanley Cup with Florida, could teach and shepherd in Simashev on his side. And then you got really good depth in defensemen in Ian Cole and D. Simone in the press box who could rotate in. Maybe Cole takes some games away from Simashev. Maybe they're smart in how they deploy Simashev. Maybe against high quality opposition like the Avalanche, like Dallas or Winnipeg, maybe they opt to go for Ian Cole instead, and then maybe play Simashev for easier games like Nashville or Chicago or a Calgary game, because they relied on Cole a lot last season, and it seems pretty weird that he's just in the press box now for this season. He was playing like upwards of 20 minutes, playing every game on the PK last season for the hockey club. So that's why I'm like, you know what, maybe Cole and Simashev could rotate a little bit. I feel like Simashev is going to be a bit of a touch and go, even though I like how he's playing. He looks mature. He doesn't look out of place. He knows exactly what to do, just needs a little work around the edges. But, they liked Cole so much. They signed him to a contract to reward him last year. It just feels a bit off that they would just healthy scratch him now. So I think Cole will get some reps in. Hopefully there's no injuries to the defensemen, but if there is, they're pretty loaded with Cole and D. Simone waiting in the press box. Valimaki, haven't heard a single thing about him all preseason. He's still injured. He suffered an ACL sprain around February or March when they sent him down to the Tucson Roadrunners. He got injured in like his first or second game playing for the Roadrunners. So I believe once he's healthy, he'll probably go through waivers again to reach the destination of the Roadrunners. Then we got the goalies, Vejmelka and Vanecek. I am really glad I watched that LA game at the Delta Center where Vanecek basically stole those 2 points. He put on a clinic. I think he had over 30 saves in that game where the team just let him out to dry, because I'm really uncomfortable. I feel like the goaltending is the weakest point of this roster. For me, Vejmelka, it's a known variable. I just need him to be what he did last year, and that's it. I don't need him to be even better or improve. Like, he had a shaky preseason. Again, it's just preseason. I don't take much stock into preseason. Vejmelka's better the more you play him. He played like 23 straight games last season to end the year. But for me, Vejmelka, he knows he can do it. He did it last year behind a worse team. So you got an improved team. You got a healthy defense for the start of the season, whereas last year you didn't. So you got a better team in front of you. You've done what you need to do. You just got to replicate it. And then for Vanecek, it's like, he's not a big goalie. It's my first time watching him. He's not big. He reminds me a lot of Antti Ranta, who, like I said, not big, wears the goalie bib, sort of relies a lot on athleticism and positioning, but he moves around way more than a guy like Connor Ingram. So Vanecek's got some underrated athleticism, sort of reminds me of an early Vejmelka. I think with some work and some confidence, Vanecek could be that stable, reliable backup goaltender to Vejmelka. We looked at Connor Ingram's goalie numbers in a previous video, and they were really bad, like an .886 with the Utah Hockey Club. So for Vanecek, that's what you got to beat. The bar's really low to beat, Ingram's numbers last year. I think he went 9-8-6 with like an .886 save percentage and over 3 goals against average. Like, that's a really low bar. So for the first season with the Mammoth, like Vanecek, you just got to be better than that. And that's an easy, 7 to 10 points in the standings right there if you're better than what Connor Ingram brought last year. Let me go to my expectations. I made these expectations to be team-oriented. Usually I do like individual player expectations for the number 5 spot, but I think moving forward, I just want team expectations, because really I have expectations for every single player on this board. But I have them as fourth in the Central this year. I had them fourth in the Central last year as well. I don't know what type of drugs I was taking last year. They finished sixth last year behind Minnesota and St. Louis. For me, Minnesota, St. Louis, and Utah, they're all kind of right there, the same sort of team. They're not elite in the Central, but they're really good teams. You cannot take a night off if you're playing one of those teams. And I feel like Utah has the edge over those two teams. I know St. Louis is well coached. They have Jim Montgomery, I believe. I didn't double check that, but they're just a solid team. They won a cup recently, and you can never count them out. But this year, the Mammoth really just need to eclipse the Blues and the Wild. Win streaks, that was a major problem last year. They only had three-game win streaks and only one 4-game win streak. They didn't have any 5-game win streaks. You need to string together win streaks, and like 5-game win streaks, you get 2 or 3 of those in a season, you're basically in the playoffs. So I need to see consistent winning from this team. It's sort of bad for morale if you don't go on a long win streak just to win a couple and then you lose, or then we'll win again and then we'll lose. It's like you got to keep spirits high, and if you really want to put your foot in the door for the playoffs, like I said, you need 5-game win streaks, 1, 2. If you have 3, like I said, that's great news. Then 3, beat Winnipeg, Dallas, and the Avs. What I mean by beat is not beat them in the standings, obviously, is to have a positive points percentage against these 3 teams. Andre Tourigny and his teams, they always struggle against these 3 behemoths in the Central Division. Last year, they split the games with Winnipeg, which was great. They went 2-2 against one of the top team in the Central. But against Dallas, they were 1-2-1, and in the Avalanche, they were 1-2-0. I just feel like those games can't just be penciled in losses. Like, it'd be great if they went 4-0 against Winnipeg, or went 3-1 against Dallas, where they go into Dallas, they see Dallas on the calendar, and they're not scared. They don't back down. They take the game to these elite teams in the Central. That would be great, and they got to start doing that. And in we're entering the 5th year of the rebuild. That's going to be my expectation now, is have a positive points percentage against these 3 elite teams. For number 4, goals for per game, I want it to be over 3 goals per game, and goals against be under 3 goals per game. Andre Tourigny has never done this in his career. They were close last year, 2.94 goals for per game, and then 3.06 goals against per game. So there's just a difference of 0.06, but that's a big difference. And with the addition of Peterka, I think those goals for per game are going to eclipse 3 very easily. With some better backup goaltending and better defense, it should drop down below 3. So that's a pretty easy expectation. If they don't meet that expectation, something went wrong, horribly wrong. And then for number 5, I got average shooting percentage. Before the hockey club, Andre Tourigny's teams were always top in the league in shooting percentage. His first year in the NHL tourney, his team was 15th in the league, and then they went to 11th in the league. And then Arizona's last year, they were 7th in the league in shooting percentage. But last year, they were 21st in the league in shooting percentage. They just couldn't execute. They had great plays, they made great plays, great chances, but the puck wasn't going in the net. And like I said, with the addition of Peterka, that puck will be going in the net more consistently. Gunther's another year older. He's going to diversify his goals. He's for sure going to get 30 again. Cooley, he's betting on himself. He thinks he's a $10 million player. You bet your bottom dollar he's going to get over 25 goals as well. And then hits, they were 28th in the league in hits per game. That is not Bill Armstrong's vision for this team. And I think with the re-engagement of Krause, the addition of Tanev, they're going to hit a lot more. That's going to make McBain hit a lot more. He led the team last year in hits. I feel like the hockey club just wasn't intimidating physically last year. And I think they got to get back to those ways of we got to be a mean, intimidating team and also beat you on the scoreboard with our scoring threats in our top six. So I really do think they'll get closer to at least average in the league in terms of hits per game. And I'm not expecting top 10 because the more you hit, the less you really have the puck. So I don't expect top 10, way better than 28th in the league in terms of hits. So I think that's it. I literally cannot wait for Thursday for the first game against the Avalanche. It's a stacked team pretty much with you're only missing Kerfoot as an injury, and hopefully we don't see any more injuries to start the season and they just get it going. Those 2 wins in the preseason to end preseason probably gave them a little pop in their step, increased morale in the locker room, and it's a tough test to play the Avalanche at home in the Avalanche's barn as your first game of this season. But it's a test, and I think Andre Tourigny and the whole team is really up for that test. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word, and as always, thank you for your support.